Am I ever gonna have a full beard?
Comment below.
It's not looking likely, guys.
Are you drowning in fitness advice? Social media and influencers are constantly telling you all these things you have to do to be at your fittest, whether that's lifting weights, high intensity interval, cardio, sauna, cold plunge, detox, the list goes on and on.
The sauna, jacuzzi, in the back row at the movies. Crazy.
Unbelievable, Luda. But how do you know what's actually worth your time?
Yeah, the Cheesecake Factory effect, I call it. If you're overwhelmed by your selection, you're gonna have that paralysis of what you're gonna choose. So
yeah, you can imagine that the average person is just overwhelmed.
yeah. So guys, what should you listen to?
We're gonna break it down for you, don't you worry.
It's us.
So today's podcast is all about how to cut through all that noise and what we feel is the best way to actually spend your time to maximize gains and do basically just the biggest bang for your buck activities.
So stick around, guys. As usual, I'm Victor, Forehead. We're here, sorry, Julian. We're here at Beef at Miami Lakes. Come have a coffee, come work out, come have a good time. You know, it's what we do here.
Come on the kick drum. That's scary.
On the kick drum.
Come,
scary
come.
on the kick drum. Come.
Go.
Go.
On the
and
kick
go.
drum.
And go. So why is there so much overwhelming and conflicting advice in the fitness world specifically?
Well, let's break it down. One of the culprits is social media and people who use social media.
100%.
Because, of course, we're always trying to get you like the new shiny object, the new method, the new thing. Everybody wants to be the person that like breaks through with like, hey, try this thing, try that.
Yeah.
And yes, although there are tried and true methods, it's boring to be the person on social media that's like, well, I do these 5 exercises over and over again. And here I am again, deadlifting.
Yeah.
Here I am again.
Visually appealing.
So it's like, ooh, cold plunge. Like, that's exciting. That looks cool
That's
visually.
new.
That's new. So it's about the novelty of it.
100%. Yeah, like you said, it's nobody wants to see you doing back squats and like single arm rows every day.
Nobody wants to see a 6-year-old man eating trash.
That's fair also. And adding to that, the whole social media dilemma, which is something relatively new. Now everybody has a voice. So an 18-year-old guy who just became a personal trainer thinks he knows what's what, when really, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. You haven't been in the field for a year. So I'm part of the belief that I don't think everybody should have a voice.
Wow, getting controversial already. 3 minutes in.
3 minutes in, I'm already controversy. Yeah, man, because like, what the hell do you know? Why is an 18-year-old giving advice to a 30-year-old mother of 2 on how to work out? Like,
I think also it's like something that's like new and exciting and like looks cool. We can't get over the fact of that something might just look cool on social media, which you would think like, okay, who cares? But obviously people care. It's very, very visual, especially platforms like TikTok and Instagram.
Yep.
And sometimes it's like you don't know any better. I mean, we were guilty of this when we were young too, where we would post ridiculous things that people should not be copying. Because it would be like cool, backflip with a burpee, like completely useless, but it looked really cool and it made you look like a badass. So it's like, all right, here we go.
I remember people were like, I can't go to your gym. You guys just do like backflips and human
are doing
flags.
flags
Like,
and
that's not what we do at all, but that's what looks cool for you guys to see. And I'm kind of glad we're straying away from that. If you've noticed over social media, like you don't really see, or maybe like they're just not on my feed.
like we
No. Like as a society, I don't think you see people in the fitness world anymore do, or even if they do, they're getting more criticism than they're getting praise for like, okay, dude, why are you doing that ridiculous lift? Like that doesn't benefit anyone. Like 6-7 years ago, people were doing all sorts of crazy shit. They were doing like
things.
the push up to the top of the thing, the guy doing chin ups with the bench attached to his back. Like I don't see that as often anymore.
Yeah. And what really upsets me about that is when like our clients or people that we know will send us that like it's a cool like look at this, and I'm just like, why?
What a tool. That's all I say.
It's
like
just, it's like an injury waiting to happen, and it screams, I just want attention.
Yeah.
There's nothing valuable here. I just want attention, which you can argue some people make their entire businesses based on like just grabbing your attention.
Eyeballs.
But anyway, I digress. Then there's like an industry bias, right? Whether you're a coach or part of a certain demographic or part of the industry, if you sell kettlebells, you're incentivized to tell people that kettlebells are the best.
Obviously.
Same with resistance bands or a Nautilus or whatever the new fancy piece of equipment is. So you can't get away from that bias when you're making money off of it. So that's another big problem and big issue with giving people advice.
Yeah, and it's not just giving people advice. You see these companies that do like studies, quote unquote, and it's like, oh my God, heat therapy is actually very effective. They'll do a very selective study. Heat therapy is so good. Sponsored by a sauna company.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, so like you really got to take these things with a grain of salt.
Always got to look into the funding with those studies.
Look at the funding, look at the sample size, do a little of your own research, because they're probably going to mention more pros than cons if it is funded by let's say like a cold plunge company that makes cold plunges is telling you why like cryotherapy and these things work for you. Like,
for sure. Or someone who would just like a gym that just invested 15 grand into a cryo chamber, and of course they're going to try to sell their clients. But you know, we've always been the type that we say it on this podcast before, but we've probably lost a good amount of money not selling things because we don't sell promote something unless we like really believe in it.
We don't sell out. We're not sellouts.
You know, it's like with supplements, like we literally have one podcast where we talk about one supplement, and that's creatine. Because it's
creatine, you know, and protein powder, if you consider
objectively good for you, right? But you know, we could have been selling fat burners, we could have had cryotherapy and whatever other BS is the new thing.
Or even like as far as machines go, people, oh, why don't you have this machine? It's because that machine's a gimmick. Like, what do you want me to tell you?
Yeah. So again, you got to look at incentives. Incentives drive everything.
Yep.
So, and the last reason that there's like conflicting advice out there is that there's an individual aspect to any type of fitness advice, right? And it's
100%.
Unfortunately the most common pitfall, right? It's this worked for me, so I'm gonna preach to it like it's the only thing. This is the thing. Mm-hmm. It worked for me. And it's a strong anecdote. Absolutely. Because it's like, look at evidence. Me. Look what I used to be like. I used to feel this way, and now I feel that way. But what you have to understand, and this is something that you only learn as a fitness professional from doing this for a long time and working with a lot of different people, is that the same thing doesn't work for everyone. As a matter of fact, you need a million different approaches for different people depending on their circumstances and, you know, their history, training history, and a million other things.
And that's why we hate these like celebrity workouts, like do the Mark Wahlberg workout. Oh, this is J-Lo's workout. Like, who gives a shit, honestly? And it's like, okay, this works for them. That doesn't mean it's gonna work for you. It's in the same vein as the person that, oh, I lost 200 pounds doing this, so this is where it's at. And they try to push that on everybody. It's like, that might have worked for you, but it's not gonna work for
you. You have to be humble enough to understand that it might not be for you.
Exactly.
You know? So even if you are giving advice that based off an anecdote, a personal anecdote, at least lead with the fact that, hey, I'm just telling you what worked for me. Yeah. This may or may not work for you.
Yeah. I only ate grapefruits with sugar in the morning, and that works. Okay, like,
but it sounds ridiculous, but that's a good example. It's like, I can lose weight by starving myself.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, somebody showed me a video the other day of some influencer. They had like 2 million views. And it was like, here's my 5-day,
split.
Was it a water only fast or was it a dry fast, which is crazy. No water is crazy. But it was an insane thing. It was like, this guy didn't eat anything for 5 days.
The desert island diet.
He was like, look at me before, I was bloated, this and that. And I'm like, dude, that's dangerous to be telling people, don't eat anything for 5 days or 7 days.
Natural selection, I guess?
Dude, it's just one of those things where it's like, you have to have a little more responsibility. I agree with you. Not everyone should be able to just spew nonsense on social media, but I also don't want censorship. But now we're getting off topic. So now I'd like to introduce our return on investment framework.
So basically, like how do you determine what's worth your time?
Exactly. How do I actually determine from all these things that I could be doing, which are overwhelming? And the best way to explain it is, what are the things that are going to give me the biggest return, the biggest bang for your buck, right? An example would be, you know, doing, let's say, a compound exercise, like let's say a deadlift versus a tibialis anterior, which is the front of your calf, one little tiny muscle.
Drummer muscle.
Like, which one do you think is giving you a bigger return? You know, obviously the deadlift that you're working literally in the entire body. That's just a little simple example, but you can use that. We're going to go deeper into this. What activities can you do that give you more bang for your buck? So think about it like this. Let's split it into two camps when we're talking about these behaviors or these activities. What are your foundational activities and what are your supplemental? In other words, what is it that is absolutely something that's necessary, that I can't skip on, that's going to give me a lot of return, versus little things that I can sprinkle that are also good, but they shouldn't be like the base of my program.
Absolutely. So like building the bones of your house and getting the structure right and all that before you start adding like the little...
Exactly. So a quick example would be like, let's say taking, what's a lion's mane. I don't know, I'm just making something up that people take, which is an herbal supplement. It's like, oh, I'm going to take the lion's... I'm not even working out or strength training or doing cardio or sleeping well, but I'm going to take the lion's mane. That's like saying, I'm going to build a house, but I'm going to start with buying a light fixture. I'm going to buy...
the mailbox first.
Yeah, I'm just going to buy the mailbox. That's the first thing I'm going to do. It's like, you shouldn't even be thinking about the little herbal supplement or the this or that.
Or the cryotherapy if you're not sleeping.
Or it's like, there are foundational things that you need to be doing, which we're about to discuss. We're going to get into exactly what that is.
Yeah.
I think that's a good example.
The big piece of the pie.
Dance break, of course. All right. Oh. Sir. Your balls are showing.
Sir, this is a Wendy's.
Okay.
So let's go back to the analogy of building your house. What are the absolute essentials? Like, how should we start this exercise framework that we've been talking about?
So I would say there's 4 things to really focus on that should be the foundation. And that
sounds
is...
nice today, by the way.
Thank you.
Nice baritone.
I've been working on it.
Nice
I sound
baritone.
like a complete asshole in most of these.
Well.
So, Miami accent. No, I don't sound like that. Okay.
Supposedly.
All right. So these are the 4. It would be strength training, our bread and butter, cardio, nutrition, and then sleep and recovery. Those are the big 4.
In no particular order.
I wouldn't put them in any particular order. But without thinking of those 4, you have no business thinking about
getting into a
the
sauna.
cold plunge, the sauna, the lion's mane, the ashwagandha. Like those are little things that we're going to also talk about, but they're not the foundation.
And we're not saying, guys, we're not saying they're bad. We're not saying don't do these things. We're just saying if you have limited time, and we all do, prioritize these 4 things
Exactly. Let's go through them quickly. Strength training.
training.
We talk about
Come
it
on, guys.
a million
What episode
times.
is it? 54? What episode are we on already?
Yeah, like 53, I think.
Yeah.
But strength training is just it's such an important thing to do, especially as you age, for a myriad of reasons, for metabolism, for muscle building, for bone mineral density, to just not be a weak your age. Sorry, mute that. Leave it.
So you can chase after your kids. Did I say the story about the people that can't catch their kids? That phenomenon I've seen.
Say it.
So in the last month, I've seen 2 people lose their kid run away and they can't catch their kid.
Like on the street.
On the street. One, we had to stop traffic and help her catch the kid. Crazy.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the feeling of
helplessness
and ineptitude of not being able to catch up to my own 3-year-old.
What's worse than that is the fact
I'm sorry,
that
I don't mean to sound judgy, but
it's the fact that you could do something about it. That's what bothers me. Like if you can't catch your kid because you had a hip replacement surgery and you're in rehab or you're in a wheelchair, fine. We all understand that. But what really gets me is that if I can do something about it, I'm gonna try
even
to.
Worse, these were classic Miami ladies that you had good figures, which I'm sure was surgery.
The BBLs didn't
The
let
BBL didn't let. I told her to bounce over there like I'm boing boing, but she didn't listen to me. I know.
There you go. There's
But
your
anyway.
tip of the day. You have a BBL, bounce after your kid. Anyhow.
So strength training.
So yeah, strength training. And one more thing I'll say about it is that it's not just about all this muscle metabolism, obviously looking good, fat loss, but also about functionality. That's a good example of the running after your kid. That's functional. Picking up your kids is functional. But even lifting things around the house, having the mobility and strength to just do things is phenomenal, right? So that's one. Then we got cardio. What about cardio? Why is it good?
You have to chase your kids for a long period
Chasing
of time.
your kids seems to be a problem in this day and age. So
I mean, cardio for a myriad of reasons, besides overall heart health, lung health, besides internally, you don't want to go up a flight of stairs and be winded.
yeah.
And that's just from a functional sense. You don't
And
know.
from a longevity standpoint, what is that we talked about in the last podcast? If you haven't heard it, it's all about RFK.
We'll give you a second.
Hold
on, wait,
the number
give me a
one,
second. And we're back.
the number one killer, which is heart disease,
I
is
said it.
highly preventable with cardio.
Exactly.
So,
there you go.
one
Imagine the one thing that's your biggest risk. It's like saying you're out on a raft and there's sharks all around. It's like, here's your harpoon. You'll be like, nah,
I'm not gonna
good.
do that.
Yeah, I'm good. I'll take the risk of the sharks, of the heart disease.
So one of the best things you could do for longevity is to make sure that you age gracefully is having a low resting heart rate. How do you do that? By being
cardio.
aerobically fit, by doing cardio. So very important.
What was Lance Armstrong's, in the 30s?
Yeah, I guess a
Crazy.
beast. Sure, he was doping, but hey.
Oh!
So was everybody else.
Yeah,
come
come
on, don't give me
on.
that. All right. All right, then we got nutrition, of course.
Obviously, that's my most important one.
You think it's the most important one?
For me,
Oh, for you. Okay.
Yeah,
But for you personally, or you
no,
feel as though...
No, I'm just kidding. I'm working on it, okay? I'm working on my nutrition. I understand the importance of it and the benefits and the health risks of not following suit with proper nutrition. And you see it every day. We see it
Might
in
be the
America.
hardest one in this whole list.
I do feel it's the hardest one. That and sleep, because people struggle. From what I've heard, people struggle with sleep. I can't relate, but most people do.
Yeah.
For me,
so
it's definitely
those are
nutrition.
Those are the last two. Obviously, nutrition, what you put in your body is going to determine so many things, from whether you're gaining or losing weight or maintaining, to
your energy
how much
levels,
muscle you're building, to your energy levels, to like your actual, like at the cellular level,
your gut health, your like everything,
microbiome, everything. It comes from the foods that you eat, and of course, if you exercise, then nutrition becomes even more important. So again, another non-negotiable. It's like one of these things where like people are like, oh, should I be?
You said if you exercise, nutrition becomes more important?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, I mean because you're leaving gains on the table because you're...
Okay. Because I was going to say, arguably,
I
it's more important if you don't exercise because at least you're doing one of the two, you know what
No,
I mean?
I agree with that. I meant in a way, that's good clarification. I meant it in a way that I'm doing all this strength training and I'm not getting my protein intake. Well. You know, it's like, what? Yeah. I'm literally leaving gains on the table. So that's what I meant by that. Like, it's more important to be dialed in so that you can maximize, you know, you didn't do all that, all of that, for, I'm not gonna say no reason because there's always a reason, but. Okay, and then sleep and recovery, again, I didn't wanna rank these because they're all so important. So obviously, sleep is, we've talked about it before, as it being probably the most underrated thing you could do for everything from mental and cognitive health to recovering from exercise to being primed and ready for exercise to just being a functioning human being. Like, you need to sleep.
And it's the most overlooked.
Exactly.
For sure.
And when it comes to like sleep and nutrition, one of the things I want to say is that these are the two that people are not paying attention to as much as they should while trying to look for solutions elsewhere, right?
I was gonna say that's the one that most people try to hack.
Exactly.
Hack the proper rest. Hack. Oh, you don't have to eat all that if you're putting these little green powders and you're drinking my AG1.
Yeah, or it's like, oh, I don't have to sleep much because I'm like super caffeinated throughout the day. Like I'm just gonna down these Celsiuses and these, you know, these energy drinks and all this coffee, and it's like, no, you shouldn't require that much caffeine. And mind you, I talk like that as a caffeine addict, but it's also a dopamine and addictive behavior personality trait. But anyway,
but this is not
analyzing Julian's
no. That would take traits. Much longer podcast.
Yep. Although we are collecting money for my medical exam. Ask about that in the comments.
Yeah, don't ask. Ask me personally.
But anyway, it's true. People will be like, yeah, you know, I'm taking ashwagandha now to help with my anxiety and this and that. Oh, how's your sleep? No. Yeah. The ashwagandha, you know, the ashwagandha. You're missing the forest for the trees. You have to. Foundation. Get these 4 right, and I promise you, you won't even need a lot of all the other ones. You really won't need them now. Once you got the 4 dialed in, or more or less dialed in, let's face it, we don't always have it, we're never gonna have it perfect. Then you can start thinking about all these other modalities. Like if you look at professional athletes, they have everything dialed in. So when you see LeBron doing his cryo and his dry needling and his cupping and all that, and you're like, yeah, but the guy also sleeps a lot, like has a private chef, has his nutrition, has his exercise.
Has his strength training,
you gotta understand that. And I think that's a good point that we didn't bring up, is that you see these people doing this stuff, and you don't realize that they already have the other stuff down. But they're
doing it in silence. LeBron's not posting every workout he does. They're not posting
all the times
back squats with terrible form. Remember that picture?
Oh yeah.
Or all the times he does his workouts, or he's not posting himself sleeping in bed. He's putting himself, like we said, what's visually appealing. It's usually not something that's not one of these 4 foundations.
Yeah, remember, to bring it back, this is the theme of today, is
build the house.
We're bringing it back to the foundation. Don't even think about the other stuff until you get the foundation. That takes a little bit of mental discipline, right? Because we all have the shiny object syndrome and we're all guilty. We were talking about it this morning in class about like the supplements that we take, and this just came out, that just came out. And it's like, okay, let's pull back and remember, am I sleeping? Am I eating, more or less right? Am I getting my cardio? Am I getting my strength training? If I'm getting those 4, for the most part, you're going to be 90% of the way there. Then feel free to sprinkle anything else that you want to.
And we're not saying like, absolutely don't do this stuff. Like if you're just starting off your strength training, like if you're just doing these things new and you kind of want to try them because it's fun and it's a novelty, go for it. Knock yourself out. We're not saying
for sure
not to do
in
it.
In
addition, but we're not saying, but what we are saying is not to neglect the big 4 and then try to like add these things as a, as a cheat code, as a hack.
100%. Can we talk about my controversial,
sure.
My controversial one that I sprinkle that other people would be like, it's so important, is stretching.
Oh, stretching is overrated.
Sorry. I know some people are going to disagree, but I don't think that if you have time to, because remember, we don't have all that time.
No.
We have limited time. That's what we're talking about here. If I have 3 hours a week to dedicate to my body, my fitness, am I going to spend any time, maybe a little bit stretching? Again, sprinkle, But the majority of my time has to be the actual training, the actual cardio, the stuff that's getting my heart healthier, my cardiovascular system, my muscles, my joints, my bones. And by the way, you can stretch and become more mobile by doing proper strength training. You can do full range of motion strength training. So
squat to ass to grass.
We're getting a little more technical now, but again, that's something that's what we're experts at. But still, what I mean is like for somebody that again follows this Instagram influencer that might be like, hey, you need to stretch every day, stretch all the time. That's what changed my life, blah, blah, blah. But you're not strength training and you're not doing cardio. It's like, no, you got it all wrong. Stretching might be a little bit important. I get that, but especially if you're super tight, but you need to be getting the foundations in.
Are you saying then that mobility training is useless? Not useless. Is not as necessary as, because that's a big one nowadays. People are saying that mobility training should be considered as like as important.
Mobility training is technically strength training. So what I would do is
classified as stretching.
No, what I would just do is a really good strength training program, which you can get from us. And this is the problem. You're not gonna get this from like a lower level trainer. You're not gonna get this from like your Planet Fitness buddy that goes and you know has been working out the same way for 10 years. I'm sorry, but you're just not. A good program takes time to learn how to make. And when we say strength training, I mean balance, stability, coordination, power, plyometrics. We're doing all that in your strength training sessions. So don't think I'm saying we're not gonna work on mobility, we're not gonna work on coordination. No, we're gonna work on that, but that's still part of the umbrella of strength training.
Yeah, like, I mean, we were guilty when we started training, we started strength training on our own, benching and, you're just super tight, but nowadays we know better. Like, bench, okay, grab a red band, do some dislocations, do some Cuban rotations, do some stuff to keep your shoulder health.
Exactly.
But like you said, a low-level trainer doesn't think of that. Just thinking of gains, like, what do I got to do? What do I got to do? Like,
exactly. Which, again, I would still say, fine, you have to go through that phase as a trainer because, again, that trainer is still doing the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah.
If you're bench pressing and not doing your little shoulder mobility thing, that's not ideal, but that's better than just doing. A lot of people get stuck in this like rehab, cycle where it's like, when does the training actually start? You're foam rolling, then you're doing your cars, your controlled rotations, and you're doing blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, are you gonna lift any weights or what? Let's talk about common. Wow, boy. All right, let's talk about common pitfalls. Like, where is this all great in theory, but obviously people struggle to just focus on the foundation. So what are some of the ways that people fail, and then how can they avoid that?
I think a really big one, especially nowadays with all the social media and all that stuff, and your friends sending you this latest class that they want to take, is that shiny object syndrome that we were talking about. They're chasing the new thing, the novel thing. Like what you said, we want to be the first of our friend group to be like, oh my God, I started doing, I'm not going to call out any exercise. I always shut on the little trampoline classes. I started doing this so-and-so's class, and it's the best thing ever. Like, well, look at the results I'm getting.
It's just a new thing.
It's just a new thing.
It's just like when you got your brand new car, and it was the best thing ever, but is it now, 2 years later?
And it's like, okay, let's see how long you do that for, how long you can sustain that. Is it actually going to like give you results?
That, and what I would add to it is, again, which takes a little higher level, because I can't help but look at everything through a exercise physiology and scientific principles, right? If it doesn't meet the principles, you can't cheat the principles. Like, you can't cheat gravity, for example, right? If somebody tries to convince me that, hey, if I go over here geographically, I can jump up and stay up in the air and I won't ever come back down. It's a silly example, but you know what I'm saying? It's if somebody tells me that,
make sense.
If somebody tells me that, that little electrical stimulation machine, you can get six-pack abs by putting stimulation on your belly and just sitting there doing nothing. It's like, your abs are not going through ranges of motion that a muscle needs to go through, right? So I have a BS filter, but I'm a trainer and I've been doing this for a long time.
That machine that shakes you?
Yeah, I mean, people swear by that thing. Dude, they swear by that machine. And I'm not saying it doesn't work like at all, but there are some things that you can't cheat. You can't cheat cardio. You have to go out and stress your body in a certain way, is what I mean. So run everything through the principles. Don't just give me some sales pitch about how this thing is the new, it's gonna change, blah, blah, blah.
You know the problem with that, and like you said, it takes a higher level, is these people are expert salesmen, and they'll hit you with some sort of, like we talked about in the last episode, some sort of like magical little phrasing, and it's like, oh, muscle confusion.
A bunch of buzzwords.
Oh my God, muscle confusion. Like, oh, that sounds like something real.
Notice how these people never go on podcasts, never have debates, and never actually are challenged on their views.
It's with people who are like
simpletons.
Yeah, like
somebody who's not going to challenge them.
The View or like People Magazine asking you the most basic, like, Oh, and how did you
100%.
get those muscles, Mark Wahlberg?
Yeah.
It's like, I wake up at 3 a.m. and I do this shitty program. Like, okay, like.
What I genuinely to this day can't understand is how people don't run that sales pitch, run it through like a BS filter, like a ChatGPT or a Google or any other type of AI. Like, hey, tell me like what's true about this. Is there any scientific evidence? Is this evidence-based? What are the like potential issues with something like this? People just take it at face value because at the end of the day, we all
It's
want
optimism. It's hope.
We want the thing that's going to change your life.
You're hope. Those people are hope
guilty
merchants.
of it.
Those people are selling you hope, is what it is. They're selling you false expectations.
And sometimes, like, it's not like nefarious. They really believe it.
Yeah.
Like I believe that Paul Saladino, the carnivore guy, really believes that like eating meat is like the way to go.
I'm sure. Yeah, there's some like hucksters, like the Liver King, that I don't think believes in anything.
That guy's full of shit.
I think he's just full of shit.
Yeah.
Then there's people like Saladino that I think actually do believe in what he's selling. And then there's people like we talked about earlier that, hey, the guy lost 200 pounds by himself. He generally believes what he's doing is the proper way to lose 200 pounds.
Yep.
That doesn't mean it's nefarious. It also doesn't mean it's right.
Yeah, exactly. You have to understand that just because something worked for you isn't, it's not, it may not necessarily work for other people.
Another one of the big pitfalls, especially like with how busy everyone is the whole all or nothing principle, basically, which is like me bowling. It's either a gutter ball or a strike.
Literally.
Literally. Oh, damn, I'm 15 minutes late to my workout. Oh, guess I'll just watch Netflix today. Like, oh, no, I only have 45. It's funny, like, when I have clients text me, like, I overslept. I could be there, but it's only going to be a 15-minute workout. I'm like, get your ass over here.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. 15 minutes is a great workout.
Yeah, or even 30 minutes. Everything, like, anything is better than nothing in that sense. Like, sure, you ate poorly over the weekend. Oh, you're going to let that landslide. Thank you. All over and ruin your whole week? It's over. No, like, you're going to get back on the horse on Monday and, like, start again and try again. You're not going to let that determine that, oh, I messed up my week, so I'm done.
But this is where I think it's a common pitfall, is because people hear their favorite influencer say, you have to do this many days a week of this, that many days a week of that. And then they go, well, I don't have that much time. So since I can't do it, it's like if I tell you that in order to invest in the stock market, you have to put $3,000 a month in order to do it. And you're like, damn, well, I don't have that. But the reality is, even if you put $15, any small amount has potential to grow. So it's that, again, it's a mindset thing of I either do all of it with the nutrition, with the this and that, or I don't do anything at all, where the reality couldn't be further from the...
Yeah, like a good example, I think, is people that know for sure, like, I'm struggling to eat healthy. I'm just not, like, I can't do that right now. So I'm just not going to do anything. It's like, no, like, you could still work out. Like, that's still, like,
you're getting a lot a gains from that.
You can have,
you can work on your sleep. Like, your life is only going to get better if you sleep.
But also don't sleep all day.
No, but you know what I mean. Be reasonable here, people.
Damn, I just remembered what I was going to say way earlier. My example of how I lose weight, go on vacation. That doesn't, like, this is how I lost 5 pounds. I go on vacation.
Yeah, I've been wanting to do that with you, and you guys let me know if this would be a great experience. I think it'll be an awesome YouTube series, which is basically crapping on these influencers, like what I eat in a day, because this guy's always been less than 10% body fat, and if you see what he eats in any given day, it might not always be horrible, but the point would be, don't copy what somebody eats in a day. Like, there are people that eat all kinds of ridiculous things every day that are super lean. So it's basically trying to say, do not just copy what somebody who's genetically gifted is trying to tell you to do. They may have already looked that way, or it may just come easy to them, that they can just, like you said, drop a few pounds on vacation. Who loses weight on vacation?
Me,
everybody here listening is like, that's ridiculous. I gained,
thumbs down on the video.
So much as look at bread and I'm gaining weight. So, but I think it's a good lesson to, like, be that honest person that's out there that's saying, don't eat what I eat in a day.
That's one of the things that upsets me the most about this day and age with the fitness influencers is somebody that got huge. I think we talked about it in one podcast, a bodybuilder that was at his peak and then switched to veganism. And it's like, oh, I'm vegan now. Look how big I am. It's like, bro, F you, man. Like, how are you going to do that to people? That's so fake. That's such BS.
And again, there's incentives. It's a sell your vegan
thing. Your new vegan product. Like Arnold. Oh, guess what? I'm huge. And now I'm going to come out with a whole documentary about being vegan. Bro, fuck off.
Get out of here. How did you win all those Mr. Olympias? You're eating a shit ton of animal protein.
Come on, man. That's so, and that's one of the things that's most upsetting to me is how fake people can be. And then the poor people reaching for that hope, the little nuggets of hope will reach and be like, hey, look at how that guy looks. And all he's eating is those protein pancakes that he as conveniently partnered with.
Yeah, that's why I think these type of podcasts are important, because we really do strive to just give it to people straight. And it's not their fault. Like, you're not an expert in this field. It's like when I go to the mechanic, I have to hope that they're not lying to me about my alternator that's not working.
Opens the thing and he's like, you see it? I'm like, yeah, man. Oh, wow. Damn.
Yup. I see it.
That's an engine. All right.
And my favorite thing is when they try to start explaining the technicalities, and I'm like, what is it gonna cost me, dude? Like, what's going on here? I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna be that,
El alternero está jodido. And you're like,
no, eso un poco de alternero. I'm like, bro, come on, that's not that guy. But anyway, in any domain that you don't know anything about, you are vulnerable to be duped. But our biggest piece of advice is, try to fact check everything, research everything, run it by ChatGPT, run it by just multiple sources.
You'd
be surprised how many times, like, I did it. I always bring this example, but somebody told me, oh, I've been wanting to try cryotherapy. I hear all these things about it, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, let's look it up together. I bring up my phone. What evidence-based, does cryotherapy? And it told you right there, it's mixed. Oh, it has a little bit of promise for mood, elevating mood. It does absolutely nothing for muscle soreness. All these other things that the promises weren't really there. And I did that in seconds. Like, it literally took me seconds. But again, people want to believe in it.
Yeah, and doing your own research, like you said, is important, because if you ask the salesman, he's going to give you some BS. Like, oh, no, it's been shown to delay muscle soreness and this and that. You're like, come on, man. Like,
yeah. And to like give ourselves credit, which I think we've done a lot in this episode.
We do a lot. We give ourselves a lot of credit.
But look, I got a call the other day, and the lady told me, I have all these cervical spine issues, like nerve issues. I have to go to a chiropractor. I have all this stuff. And, sometimes it gets exacerbated with my workouts, but I'm working out at this place, and somebody told me about you guys. And I'm like, look, I can't promise you that you're not going to have neck pain with our workouts. Like, that's not what we do. We're not pain experts. Now, a charlatan would have said, yeah, come to us. Like, you'll be good. We do things the right way. Our trainers are looking at you, which is true. But I can't make a false promise. No. I can't tell you that your neck is not going to hurt, because I don't know what the hell is wrong with your neck. Like, maybe doing lateral raises exacerbates your neck. Maybe doing some exercise that's like completely benign. So I feel like I have to. It's like the professional, the ethical thing to do is to say, hey, this may not be for you, even if it means having a client, like losing a potential client.
We talk about it all the time. We said, I think a few podcasts ago, the huckster trainer will tell you, yeah, I'll help you lose 10 pounds in a week. Yeah, come in. And we're always the type that's like, no, man, temper expectations. Like, set a long-term goal, because that's not
realistic. So to wrap it all up, let's talk about what we consider the BeFit Brothers simple game plan. This is the game plan for that overwhelmed person, that person that's getting all these mixed messages. It's like, what should I be doing? Let's start here. Nutrition, figure out where your biggest pitfalls are with nutrition, and try to follow a mostly whole foods diet. Limit your ultra processed food. Make sure you have enough protein intake. Make sure you get some fiber. So those will be like the basics of nutrition. That's non-negotiable for anybody, and anyone could do that. That's not like a exercise thing where I don't have time to exercise. Anyone could do that. Next is sleep. Try to prioritize sleep. The guy that wants to live forever, Brian Johnson, he always says, and I know he's a little extreme, but he has a lot of things that are true. He says, treat sleep. He's like, become a professional sleeper. Treat it as like the most important thing. Have a pre-bedtime routine. Turn off the TV. Turn off your phone. All these things. Try to be consistent with your sleep schedule, because again, that's gonna make if you've never done this, that's gonna change your life. Like, seriously, if you sleep well, it's gonna completely change your life. You're gonna be thinking better. You're gonna have more energy. It's gonna motivate you to exercise more. And by the way, exercise helps with sleep. So all these things kind of like.
I was about to say the same thing. We just had a new client say the other day, like, ever since I started strength training here with you guys, I'm sleeping so much better.
Yeah.
I wake up with more energy, and I'm ready to strength train again.
Again, the foundation, it builds on each other. That's why I don't like to separate one thing from the other. To me, I just think that they're all like kind of intertwined, and they all help with each other. Okay, so we got those two that are non-negotiables. Next, we're going to talk about the actual exercise portion, right?
Which this one we can argue varies.
This one varies a lot, because you might only have 2 days a week. What's really cool is that, I don't know if you've seen some of Jeff Nippard's or Mike Israel, they've been posting research that shows that as little as 2 times a week of like total body training can give you huge gains. Like not just a little bit of gains, like big time gains. So 2 times a week, 3 times a week, obviously more is better to a certain extent, especially since you're trying to do strength and cardio. However, any amount of exercise is going to be good. So if you only have 2 times a week, it's like strength training for 30 minutes, do cardio for the 30 minutes after that.
Especially
whatever.
just starting off. Like, take as little time as you need. Or
Yeah. Hey, what's up, man?
What's up?
How are you? And then I would add another little one to the foundation, which is just daily movement. So this is non-exercise movement. This is just moving around, parking your car a little bit further, going for a daily walk.
Gardening.
Exactly. I don't consider walking as part of the exercise. It's not going to be cardio. So again, this is something that you just like throughout your day, look at your habits and the way you move your body and just try to move a little bit more.
Even that is kind of like...
Sprinkling?
No, not sprinkling. I would say even that's like on a per person basis, because what if you're 400 pounds and you've been immobile and walking is your workout? You know what I mean? Like, these things are all so...
No, absolutely.
Like, you got to really analyze your own situation. That's why we're saying we don't like the people that pick something and say, hey, you got to be doing like kettlebell workouts every single day. Like, your situation is unique to yourself. And that's why what we do, besides the group training, we do personal training, because every person is different, has different goals. Like, your goal might be to push someone in a wheelchair. Your goal might be to just go for like be able to go for a walk without feeling like you're gonna pass out. So
we have a client who overcame cancer, and her goal was simply to be able to pick up her grandkids. Like, that was her goal, and she could barely walk when she started with us. And you know, again, that's somebody that their goal was something that to the rest of us seems kind of simple and that we maybe take for granted, but to her, just being able to walk normally and move freely and not be dependent on other people. And pick up your grandkid, like and I think it's a beautiful story, and it's something that, like you said, it depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
One last thing about this is the best plan is the one that you do consistently. So
Absolutely.
that goes in line with what you just said. Don't try to pick something because your favorite influencer said it, including us. Maybe you are the type that has to start by walking every day, and we do know somebody like that. And if that's what you can do because you know you can sustain it, then great. But always remember that these foundational things, you want to start adding little by little.
Yeah.
So I hope you've realized that you don't have to do all these things, that you can just focus on what gives you the biggest bang for your buck, which I hope we convinced you that it's those 4 pillars, and then feel free to add and sprinkle all the other things.
Yeah, hopefully we didn't confuse you more. We tried to be...
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward.
We tried to keep it as straightforward as possible. And like we said, every person's unique. You guys are all unique. Like, we all have our own difficulties. I know I struggle with nutrition. Some people struggle with the exercise portion. So, you know, like we said, pick what is hardest for you and then just try to get consistent with it. Like, I think you're going to be happy with the results you see.
100%.
Well, that being said, guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Fit Brothers
Podcast. All that being said, I want to build a sauna in my backyard.
Yeah, but you
I have all the pillars. I know. And again, it's like, feel free to do all those things as long as you got the foundation.
Are you going to be in the sauna nude?
Hell yeah. My neighbors will get a show.
I think I need a telescope.